This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
Andrew Berry cuts another draft pick. Myles Garrett has not practiced yet this week. The Browns get some good news on the injury front. They also get some disappointing news on the injury front. All that and more. Let's go and look at what's the latest with the Cleveland Browns as they enter into their week 3 battle against the New York Giants. It's been a relatively slow news week for the Cleveland Browns. Not much has happened, especially compared to the first 2 weeks of the season, right? The Browns had a crazy news week going into that second week of the season. This week, not so much, right? We're not hearing about new cases. We're not hearing about much new stuff. There is some new stuff with Mike Hall. He did plead no contest to his charge. The NFL released a statement saying that his status has not changed. We'll see what happens with Mike Hall. I would assume this taking longer than shorter. I know some people are anticipating Mike Hall is coming back soon because of some moves that the Cleveland Browns made, but I don't think those timelines necessarily match up. I think Mike Hall, if he does come back, the soonest would probably be next week, and I wouldn't imagine he would be active right off coming off the commissioner's list. But the Browns cut a draft pick. They cut Nathaniel Bookie Watson out of Mississippi State. This is a surprise because of all the late-round draft picks they had, I thought this was the guy who had a chance to, make an impact in his rookie year. Now, again, the hope is that he comes back on the practice squad, and they think there's a good chance that they'll be able to get him back on the practice squad, and they probably will be able to get him back on the practice squad by the end of the season at least. But yeah, them cutting Nathaniel Watson, bit of a surprise here. I thought he was going to be able to find a way to compete for that third linebacker spot, but the injury in camp ended up derailing him after a pretty strong start and a good start to the preseason. Unfortunately for him, he's going to probably be on the practice squad here. Now, there's a number of theories as to why the Cleveland Browns might have made this move. Some people, as I said earlier, speculated that this might be to get Mike Hall back on the roster. I don't think that's the case. Again, this would be really quick, right? If the NFL had announced that he was off the exempt list today after the no contest, then maybe that would have turned into something, but I don't think that's the case. I think Mike Hall, probably a week or two, we'll figure out what's going to happen with him if he does or does not get suspended, because they did move this from commissioner's exempt list to personal conduct policy. And I don't know how pleading no contest changes things in the NFL's eyes. It's very random. But I would expect a suspension of the 4-game variety for Michael Hall to eventually take place. Who knows if they give him time served on the exempt list to kind of mitigate that. So if he's already missed 3 weeks, they might just suspend him 1 more week and call it a day, or suspend him like 3 games and say it was a 6-game suspension. Who knows how that goes. My thought was that the Browns might have done this in order to keep Royce Freeman, right? The extra running back that they went after Pierre Strong ended up on the injury report with the hamstring injury, has not practiced yet. So maybe this is to replace Pierre Strong while still keeping Pierre Strong on the roster. I'm surprised they're this dedicated, to be honest, to keeping Pierre Strong on the roster, given that the Browns still have 2 running backs who are going to be coming back onto the active roster after they clear Pup and Nick Chubb and in Naheem Hines. So we'll see if that's why they did that. But I would think if it was for running back, they would have just released Pierre Strong. Or maybe they're much higher on Pierre Strong than I am. Maybe this is also for wide receiver. The Browns had an injury with David Bell here. This might be to activate one of the wide receivers on the practice squad to the main roster. All of those things could be true. Have no idea what they're doing it for, but it's clear they're doing it for roster manipulation. And they expect Nathaniel Watson to be back at some point. Myles Garrett has not practiced this week, and this is a good time to get into the injury report because there are a couple things that I want to talk about on this injury report. So on the injury report, you see Jack Conklin has practiced full 2 days in a row. Here's my speculation on Jack and Jed. I think Jed is a week behind Jack Conklin. And to some people, that might make a lot of sense. To some people, it doesn't. It makes a lot of sense that Jed is going to be behind Jack Conklin. Remember, Jack Conklin got hurt week 1 last season, and he got his surgery immediately. His season was immediately announced over. Jed Wills got hurt in week 9 last season, so a full 8 weeks after Jack Conklin got hurt, and did not have surgery for an additional 4 weeks after that until November. So we're talking about somebody whose injury happened about 12 weeks apart from Jack Conklin. It makes sense that he's a week behind in coming back from Jack Conklin. Now, again, I think the Browns were optimistic and hoped that both of these guys could be back for the start of the season. So this has started a little bit slower than they would want here, but it looks like Jack Conklin's going to play. Now, the plan for him playing, I don't expect them to have Jack Conklin play his first game in over a calendar year and get back to 60, 70 snaps on offense. I think they're going to rotate him and DeJuan Jones in and out. You got to remember DeJuan Jones has been coming off a injury this week as well. And DeJuan Jones has been rotated in and out pretty often in his Browns career, even when he's not injured. It's not unusual to see DeJuan Jones be taken on and off the field. So I think he's going to play right tackle this week. And then he's going to rotate in and out with DeJuan Jones. And that's going to be kind of the situation there. Expect to see James Hudson at left tackle. I don't think the Browns are desperate enough at tackle to where they would put Jack Conklin in that position coming off of a full calendar year of not playing football, right? Like, I think they would put him in a better position to succeed in that, because whether you think Jack can play the left side or not, I think putting him in a situation where he's playing the left side and coming back for the first time, it's a pretty rough spot. Like, I would just give him 15, 20 snaps this week, see how he plays, see how he feels, and then move on from there. And I do think Jed will probably be a week or two behind Jack Conklin here, right? We look at the injury report for Jed. He's practice limited both days this week. Maybe he'll give a full practice on Thursday or Friday. Friday. And that'll be progress. And I think that'll mean that Jed's probably going to be back next week, but not going to be back this week. Don't expect Jed Wills to be even active this week. I expect him to be a week behind where Jack Conklin is. Another thing is Myles Garrett hasn't practiced yet. Some people getting nervous about this. Will Myles Garrett play against the New York Giants? I'd be surprised if Myles Garrett doesn't play. Myles Garrett is very well known to be somebody who's going to play no matter what. I mean, this dude's gotten a massive car accident and almost played the week after he got into that massive car accident, did play the week after that. He hurt his shoulder last year against Denver, played the next week. I expect Myles Garrett to play unless he physically can't do it. That's just the kind of dude Myles Garrett is. And that means Myles is going to play through any injury that he has. So it's unfortunate he has his foot injury, but I think the reason he's not practicing is so they can rest the foot injury, not because the foot injury got any worse. They want to make sure Myles can play and recover at the same time. And this is a big part of making sure that Myles can play and recover, rest him during the week. Dalvin Tomlinson also didn't practice, but that doesn't seem to be injury related. There is no injury note for him. So that's fine. Not really a big deal either there for Dalvin Tomlinson. DeJuan Jones got back to practice. It's good news. Hopefully he's full tomorrow, so you know he's going to play, because you do have questions about DeJuan. There are times where DeJuan just pops up on the injury report and does not play for whatever reason the next week. Jamari Thrash is also back, which is going to be pretty important this week because you expect him to be on the field a little bit now that David Bell is no longer active for the rest of the year with him being on IR. So that's all there with the offensive line, the wide receivers. On the other stuff here, no David Njoku. I think it was a hope that he could come back, but not yet. We'll see what his status is next week. The Browns are going to take these injuries slow through this portion of the season. They're really going to want to make sure that when they hit that tough part of the season versus Philadelphia, versus Baltimore, Cleveland, like there's an insane stretch that the Browns have that they're going to want to hit as healthy as possible throughout the year, right? Like when they get to that point of the season. And that stretch is about week 6. They play Philly and Philly. Then right after that, at home, they get Baltimore and Cincinnati. Then they play the Chargers. Then they get a bye week. You play the Saints, who've been playing good football. Then you play Pittsburgh. That's a murderer's row right there. You want to be healthy as possible, just so if you have attrition, you can still get out of that stretch with your head above water. I think that's why the Browns are taking these injuries and getting these guys back from injuries and taking their time with it, because they feel like they can win these games right now while also not having to rush guys back from injury, because they don't want to be at a point to where they're fully blown out from an injury standpoint in the middle of the toughest stretch that they're going to have this season. Now, the good news in that stretch, a lot of these are home games, right? Bengals, Ravens, Chargers, Steelers, home game. So that's the good news in that stretch, but you're going to want to be healthy as possible. Also, Denzel Ward and Alex Wright still limited. Alex Wright, that's new that he's limited. Denzel Ward, we know that he was on the snap count last week. It doesn't seem like there was a re-aggravation of that injury, so seems like he'll probably be on a lesser snap count this week. Again, they're going to play it safe with any injuries that they have to make sure that they get through these stretches as strong as possible, but they got to make sure they win these games. But that's the update of the Cleveland Browns going into the last practice of the week before they play the New York Giants. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.